Hello, everyone. Welcome to You Can Thrive in SPED. Today, I have with me Holly Clark. I'm super excited. She worked so hard to make this work out in her uber busy schedule, and so I'm just so happy today that she's here with us. Hi, Holly.
Hi. And I'm excited to be here because special education teachers are my favorite people.
Oh, thanks. And you're one of my favorite people, so that works out great. So, Holly has been in education for 25 years, and I first came to know her work through Twitter and seeing things that she would tweet and other people would talk about how wonderful she is. And then I was privileged to hear her speak in person a couple of summers ago at a conference and just fell in love with her ideas and everything she does and made a lot of difference to how I use tech in my classroom. And so now I'm part of her infused Facebook group and a huge follower. And so I hope you all love her as well. So, Holly, can you just fill us in a little bit on your background, how you got to where you are?
Who knows, right? But what I think started all of this is back in the year 2000. I was teaching in the Silicon Valley. I just gotten back from getting my master's in ed tech from Columbia in New York, and I was at a back to school night, and I said, I'm really excited for what technology is going to do. I made a website. We're going to go to the computer lab, and I was like really enthusiastic in front of the parents. And then at the end of the back to school night, a parent came to me and tapped me on the shoulder, and I'm thinking, oh, don't ask about your kids. I don't know their names yet. I'm gonna fake like, yeah, he's a really great kid, you know. But and he said, listen, I own one of the big companies here, and I want to give you a computer for every kid. And there wasn't like one-to-one back then. No one knew what that was. And he's like, and they'll be here tomorrow if you're okay with that.
Wow.
Like,
incredible.
So the next day, and I'm going to turn down my thing. There's a little reverb there. The next day, the computers came. They were e-machines, and they had to be placed on the perimeter of the classroom so that we could all work on them. But the point of it is that in the year 2000, I got this one-to-one classroom, and it's really made me rethink and have the ability to rethink what one-to-one should look like in our classrooms right now, because I've been doing it for 20 years. No one's been doing it for 20 years. So I'm sort of like an OG in this little world.
A pioneer, that's what you are. Yeah, that's amazing story, and like donors choose before it became a thing.
Yeah. Well, then I went to donor, like I use donors choose. I have gotten probably, I would think, $30,000 worth of stuff from Donors Choose, because after I got the computers, I needed cameras, then I needed like headphones, then I needed, and so I'm a big proponent of Donors Choose.
That's amazing. So today you're going to share with us some of your infused goodness and how it can help us save time and help us be more effective at everything we do.
Well, hopefully, I don't know, there's being a teacher, it's really hard on the time constraints, and especially if you are a special ed person who has caseloads of people. And so what I'm trying to do is trying to get teachers that you work with to really rethink how they do things. And I'm going to talk about this infused classroom here in a second and the 12 components, but I want to talk about something that I'm like really passionate about right now, is that now that we have technology, I really want the gen ed teachers, and I hate to call them gen ed because everyone is special. Everyone has like something that's special about them, that we need to look at them as unique learners, every single kid. But I'm really passionate about directions these days, and that now that we have Flipgrid, I really want teachers to put directions up on Flipgrid with closed captioning, with talking about what the directions are, because what we do in classrooms right now is we give out a written sheet, or it's not written, it's photocopied, and then if the kids are there that day when you explain it, they might get it, but by the time they get home, they're like, wait, what did that teacher say? I can't remember. And then the kid who was absent comes up to your desk and is like, what were the instructions? What did you do yesterday? And you're like, oh, I'll tell you later because I'm taking attendance. And so if we did our directions, just that one simple change, and we put it on Flipgrid, and we did our presentation that way, parents could watch it, resource teachers could watch it, and we would have a bigger community of people who could help lift the kids up, all of them, through these instructions that would be more inclusive.
That's
And
that's brilliant, Holly, because as a resource teacher, that is one of the biggest things. And and general education teachers sometimes get upset when I ask, and they're like, "Well, I told them what to do." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what to do, and they can't remember." And you feel like you're interrupting and bothering, and that's a brilliant idea.
Sorry, I'm getting text messages. I should have turned that off over there. Yes, but it's exactly right. And honestly, as a regular ed teacher, and again, I hate saying that term, like I didn't always have time to be telling parents again, or the kid again, or help the resource teacher. I wanted to, but God, I had 175 kids, and if I just did this one thing on Sundays, and just made the directions for the week, kids could be more successful in my class. So like that, you're going to see me pushing that a lot in this next school year, especially with remote learning. How can you not have instructions? How can you still be putting them just in a doc? It's so very 1980s.
When we went to the virtual learning, the very first thing that our administration required was we had to have a video walking through all the instructions for the day. And so many teachers resisted that because they weren't comfortable being on video and all of that. But then once everybody started doing it, it just was such a huge difference because the number of questions you had to answer significantly went down and saved time.
Right. And so that would save a lot of time. On the front end, it's going to be kind of a little bit for a teacher to get used to doing it, but Flipgrid gives us this ability to like put the slides right there that we're talking about, or give examples and mentor texts. And so it would be a little bit more time for the teacher at first, but they would get used to it, and then it would save time for the parents and the students and the teachers. So I'm really passionate about that. But really what I've been talking about, and the stuff that you see in the Facebook group and things, are these 12 components of an infused classroom. And people often think that an infused classroom means infusing technology and pedagogy, which it does. But it's so much more. That's just one component of an infused classroom. So if we look at this, it's a wheel, and it goes 1 through 12. It only has those numbers because I have paragraphs that talk about them in the new book called Chromebook Infused Classroom. And that's why the numbers are there, but no one of these is more important than the other. Kids, especially kids in the range of students that we have, they need to be doing something like number 11. They need to be getting up and moving. How are we constraining kids in desks for 45 minutes and then thinking that they're really going to even learn anything? We've all sat in stuff in desks like that. But the thing that when people think of infused classroom, they think of number two, that we can get access to apps and learning tools and Flipgrid, but it's really only one part. It's being flexible. It's looking at our students as individuals and treating them that way. And often people think that they are individualizing instruction because at the end of a unit, let's say I read The Outsiders, and I say to kids, you can respond to The Outsiders by writing a poem or doing whatever. I'm going to say diorama. Hopefully people are still doing that. But making a Google Slides and doing, some other project. That is absolutely 100% not individualizing instruction at all. That's choice. Individualizing instruction is getting some information about my student at the beginning through an assessment of prior knowledge, seeing who that kid is and where they are, getting little artifacts along the way, and at the end, having an artifact of their learning, and grading this trajectory for each student. So Sally would have a different one. Jerry would have a different one, whatever the names of the kids are. We don't have kids with those names anymore. But
I can't pronounce most of the names.
But we grade them by where they started and where they ended. And when we can get at where each student is, we can reach those different learners. We can understand them. And that saves time, to be honest with you. But being able to do it at first takes a little time, and that's where also we need to be flexible in our own learning. And then, of course, number 10 is this inclusivity, that we need to understand who our learners are. And so I really talk a lot about that. And I've had a big push around inclusive classrooms, both for diversity of ethnicity and diversity of learning strengths. And we're simply, and I don't mean this bad in any way, but it's malpractice not to address our kids as individuals who have
And I
different
think
strengths.
that's something, Holly, that special education teachers, like, that's our wheelhouse. That's our strong point because that's what our training came through. Look at them all individual. And sometimes trying to blend that in a school system where now you have these generalists who are teaching content instead of students sometimes still in their head, and trying to put that together in a way that helps all students is the hard part.
And people like yourself and people in your Facebook group who realize that technology can lift this up. And often the special ed teacher is the person who knows about these apps like text help and immersive reader before anyone else. But also sometimes they don't.
Right?
And I've had special ed teachers give me a binder of like, this one kid has these things and here's what you need to do. You need to shorten their assignment. And I'm like, I need to get at what they know. I need to ask them stuff so I can better understand them as a teacher. And so these apps like Flipgrid and Seesaw and Screencastify just make it so great for understanding each of my students as an individual, as a human,
Yes.
and not as a data point that needs to have this information at this time in this way. So, and another thing that I find with my students who might have an IEP, often it's a processing problem or an executive functioning problem. And if I do something like just this one thing, just activate their curiosity at the beginning of a lesson, that really almost usurps some of these processing things because they're so curious about it. They can't get enough, and they'll find a way to get the information. And maybe it's not, they can't read large amounts of text, but if they're curious, they'll find YouTube videos. They know how to often serve themselves.
Yeah, curiosity, so wonderful. That's like a lost word too. Like we're pounded in us. You have the knowledge of what they need to know, and don't let them go outside this little testing box and whatever. And oh my gosh, we need that curiosity back. So glad you used that word.
Well, and that saves time, to be honest with you, because once they're curious, they're off doing their own thing. And I'm not going to find extra things for them because they're doing things so well on their own. And also, like saving time using Wakelet. I don't know how much you've used or talked about Wakelet here, but using Wakelet to curate resources for them and all students. For me, I consider all students like a special ed because they're all, I like to call them high potential and not at risk. That's a horrible word. So curating these resources for them on Wakelet and having that ready. And then when they come and they don't know something or they're having difficulties, save time by giving them this Wakelet collection.
Yes, and putting all that together takes time up front, but in the end saves so much time. Like a lot of people have a rule they use, like ask three before me. But if there aren't resources as well, like I say, do three things before you come to me. Do ask a peer or another person in the room, but also check your notes and check the resource hub that I've given you in Google Classroom or whatever LMS I'm using, and do all of those things before you ask the teacher. And that independence building comes along the way with it.
Another thing, I don't know why what you just said put this in my head. Another successful strategy I've seen with my students who have processing issues or maybe dyslexia or dysgraphia is not having them do notes, obviously. But then when you tell a gen ed teacher that they're not supposed to do notes, they might copy them off. It's still all these words.
Yep.
And so one of the things that we've had a lot of success with is teaching kids to sketch note and to use icons. And so that's something for both special ed teachers and gen ed teachers to really behind is the idea, and usually kids are really good at it.
Yes.
And
Yeah, the icon
we're the
thing,
ones
having
that
that
forget.
icon hub is like such a key to the sketch note. I know when I first started introducing sketchnoting, we're trying to draw everything, and then when someone introduced the icon hub, I'm like, oh my gosh, like blew it out of the water.
My students actually sit with icon pages that's double-sided and it's laminated and it sits at their desk. So they don't even have to think very
Right.
struggle. It's there. And it really has helped. I hate to say test scores because I feel like test scores don't mean anything to me. I don't care. Like if they're can remember the Civil War years, that means nothing to me. But what I have found it help is create critical thinking,
Yeah.
the ability to really talk about what they've learned later. So I really like that. Let's see what I have next. And part of the infused classroom and looking at how we help teacher or students is really taking on this idea that the infused classroom teacher also needs to be these things. And to me, there is a number one on this one, and it's building relationships. You can't help kids if you don't know who they are and you don't care enough. And I think that teachers really do care. I think sometimes we have too many students, but understanding that relationship helps you understand them and helps you do better by them. And so it's the growth mindset for sure, but those building relationships. And so when you think of building relationships, you don't think of infused classroom because you're thinking technology. But technology does that for me through Flipgrid. I can ask them questions. Tell me what you think about this. I found out about, I was reading a book that's very popular called To Kill a Mockingbird. And through Flipgrid, I found out that one of my students of color felt a lot of trauma while we were reading that because of words that were in the book, and that they were the only person of color in that class. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was reading To Kill a Mockingbird and doing the right thing. It's the great American novel. Oprah said it was the great American novel. But this kid, through Flipgrid, explained to me and felt, because we had a relationship that they could say it, explained to me how they felt when we read this book. And I've never read it since and won't ever read it again because I had no idea, because I wasn't thinking in that way.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with Mississippi Trial. I can't remember the year it is, but it's the story of Emmett Till. And a student has shared with me that he had an uncle who was African American, and because of what his uncle would tell about going through, he hated when we would read that book. And I had noticed before that like his behaviors were off when we were reading the book, but there was nothing that told me that until like you said, asked that reflection question and got a result back. He would not have raised his hand and said that in class, but being able to privately share that, I was like, oh my goodness. And so now I try to ask those questions more at the beginning of anything I'm teaching.
Well, this particular example taught me to have individual grids on Flipgrid for each student so that they had a place that other kids wouldn't see. And if there was a problem, go onto your individual grid. I'll get a notification that something's up. And he just was like, Miss Clark, I don't know how to tell you this, but here's how I'm feeling. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
And I've even had kids tell me, and I have to be honest with you, The Outsiders is like my favorite book of all times. But I live in California, and there's a lot of students of color in my classes. And I've had a couple tell me, can we stop reading about white people? And I'm like, that's a good point. Like none of you are white. Why are we reading about the white kids on the... And so I've learned a lot from Flipgrid, and the point is that these apps allow us to really get more connected with our students and understand them as learners, and then we can do better by everybody. So there's one last one, and I won't go into this too much because it's pretty. I think it's pretty high level teaching and learning with this. But one of the things that happens when teachers get devices in the classroom is they ask, oh my gosh, we're Google App School. What can I do? What can I do with the device? What can I, like, maybe I'll do a slideshow. Ooh, maybe I'll do book creator. And instead of asking what you can do as the teacher with the device, I'm going to be on a personal thing to try and get teachers to ask, what can kids do? What can they show you about themselves? What can they learn about themselves as learners? How can we help them manage and keep track of their learning? I'm definitely a kid who probably had executive functioning issues, but they didn't have that when I was a kid. There was no classification. I don't even think there was ADD when I was a kid, which I probably would have had. And if someone would have taught you how to manage and keep track of this, and this isn't just a standard, it's the number one standard for students, the first one that they say. It's either 1A or 1B, but so it's up there. And it's how do we allow kids to know where they are? So when they come to the resource room, they can say, here's where we are, here's what we're doing. And often kids with processing issues that can be hard, but it also can be pretty easy for teaching them to use things like Google Keep. And we're teaching them to maybe have a wakelet of their homework. Like, just go to Wakelet. There's all my homework. I don't have to go to this teacher's website and this teacher's website. I have curated it into a Wakelet. And then allowing them to demonstrate their knowledge that's best for them. Like for me, I just want to hear. I want to hear what you know. And so first it's activating the curiosity, which I talked about, letting kids find their own, like, wow, this is interesting. What is this? Then keeping track of where they are in the learning process, then showing what they learned, and then finally reflecting on that process. And for me, you start with activation and you see where they get to the reflection and grade this other part. I don't know if you grade, manage, and keep track of learning, but I grade each kid, and that's another personal thing for me. I want to teach teachers how to do that because it's easier than they think.
It is. I agree. I think that we see this big fog of how can I do it, and then we're our own stopping point. And it's been around long enough that there are experts who can teach us how to do this and in a manageable way, and that makes sense for you and your students. And when you were talking about, oh, here's this Chromebook, what are you supposed to do? It just reminded me, like our district 5 years ago went to Chromebook, and basically the direction was make sure your kids are using it. And that was it. Like they better be on it. We're putting a lot of money in it. And we got no training. And so I'll never forget the science teacher I worked with. His kids were on it every day because he scanned his worksheet in and they pulled it up on a PDF and filled it out. And then in the staff meeting, the principal was like, hey, I walked down Mr. So-and-so's room and those kids are on the computer again. And everybody knows they're just doing a worksheet.
Yeah.
But I think we get trapped into that because we don't get enough training, one. And two, we're just so afraid if we don't use it, we're going to be in trouble because we didn't use this new shiny object and we use it all incorrectly. So I so appreciate people like you providing training.
Well, and I'm not trying to like sell a book or whatever, but like as soon as we get off here, I'm going to print out the Chromebook Infused Classroom, read it one last time, and then it goes off to the printers. And that's what it's focusing on this class. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. But with the Chromebook Infused Classroom, this is what I focused in on is how do we go from you're probably a good teacher in analog. You probably do some really great things. How do you put that into digital, make it even more powerful? And it's easier than you think. So the whole book is about like just making that leap from it. Like, what are you really getting at with that worksheet? Are you getting at practice? Well, how can we do that?
And then it's dreadful to grade. Like,
yeah,
it's so much easier to have a pile of papers and sit in front of the TV. Those digital worksheets are dreadful to grade, but using things like Edulastic and that make things they grade themselves if you're doing fill-in words. Oh my gosh, save yourself time, and the kids have a little more engagement doing it.
Well, and I'm really about pressing record. Like everything a student turns in, let's say they turn in a paper, I want them to explain their thinking to me when they turn it in. So let's say they go to Flipgrid and they give me the paper, a link to the doc, whatever. Hopefully it's in Adobe Pages, but anyway, even if it's in a doc, I want them to tell me, here's what I'm proud of. Here's the process I went through to write this paper. I'm most proud of the second paragraph because I spent a lot of time on detail. And if I had to do this over, I'd probably spend a little more time on the third paragraph because of these reasons. And we have the ability to do that now. And I think it's like, and I don't want to use the word malpractice, but now in 2020, if we're not getting at student thinking, when they turn something in, and that's called multidimensional learning, making the connections with things. And that's a Joe Bowler kind of thing. And she's like a guru, but we have this ability to press record and hear from our students and really understand stuff about them. And they should be doing it, I think, almost every time they turn something in. I can't listen to all those recordings all the time. So not every time, but on a big project, heck yes, I want to hear. If you're going to do slides, which a lot of teachers do, and you're not pressing record and hearing, why did I design the slide this way? What things worked for me when I was collaborating with these other people?
And Holly, I also, going forward with the kids, and that our job isn't just to teach them content and teach them to think, but they are going to be beings into the world. And the world they're going into is going to require them to be on video. And so a lot of teachers, I think, stay away from that because kids are like, no, I don't want to be on video. I don't want to do my video and da 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 da. And I've fallen into that trap before. But what you notice is when you require it with consistency, that they become comfortable with it. Just like I've become comfortable. I think your interview number 17 for me in this series I'm doing. Boy, I'm way more comfortable than I was when I did number 1. You know, we have to practice something to become comfortable with it. And if we're going to stay in any sense, in a virtual sense, when we go back, because those decisions haven't been made for us yet, we need to see our kids in video because it's a piece of that keeping connection that you talked about earlier.
And there's another aspect. So we spend, in our real lives, we spend 80% of our time talking to people, and we spend 20 on text. We someone doesn't come up to me and say, how do I solve a math problem? I go, hold on, let me write that out for you right here. You explain it. Yeah. And so in school, we reverse that. We do 80% on text and 20% talking. And then we wonder why kids cannot articulate their learning, why they haven't learned stuff. We need kids to tell us about their learning, because when you can tell us something, you know it.
Yeah, and those facts are like a call to action. They should be to people. Like I didn't realize those percentages, and you're like, oh my gosh, you should feel in your heart like I better do something about this.
That's how I feel. We should all be pressing record. But there's also this. And special ed teachers know this better than anybody. You cannot be a good reader, and you cannot be a good writer orally. I mean, you can't, sorry, when those text messages come on, I'm like, oh, stop. But you cannot be a good reader and you cannot be a good writer until you are good orally. And so we've got to get kids talking. So one year when I first discovered this, I had kids recording their thought process, and all of a sudden our reading and writing scores went up. Hold on, sorry, let me tell people not to text me really quick. Okay, I've been, I should have like a thing. But anyway, so our scores went up, and we were like, what's happening? What are we doing differently? Like, is it the Chromebooks or what's, and we dissected everything, and it was because our kids were talking more. And because they were talking more, they were using the vocabulary. They were able to apply that to their writing. They were able to take from their reading and apply it, and it all worked together. And we leave that out. And then we wonder why our scores are slow, and we take recess away from kids. And it's all this big, horrible thing when if you just let them talk more.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, Holly, we are coming to the end of our 30 minutes. Learned so much, and I know that the people watching are going to be so excited about the takeaways. But I know you have a free gift to offer as well, so I want to make sure you have time to talk about that.
Yeah, so that Tequity in the classroom, you don't have to worry about that. I wanted to put in, if you want to win a book. So I'll put it up, and when you'll tell me when this goes up, that for 48 hours after that, if you fill out this form, I'll just random name generator and pick out 2 people to win a book. And you can choose, because there are 3, you can choose the Google Infused Classroom, the Microsoft Infused Classroom, or the Chromebook Infused Classroom. If you choose the Chromebook Infused Classroom, it'll be about a month before you get it, but you can be one of the first people to have
things
that.
off the shelf, Holly. So that's a great opportunity. You want to put your name in. And so if you're watching this video, the same place you linked to watch this video is the link to put your name in for a chance to win that book. And so do it. Go do it. That's a very generous gift. Appreciate it. And thank you so much, Holly, for making time in your schedule to come on and share with us and keep the learning happening.
Well, thank you for having me, and sorry for all the text messages going across the window.
Okay. It's real life, right? Okay, bye everyone.